Good evening. It's Wendy Hernandez. I'm a Phoenix family law attorney, and I'm also the creator of Command the Courtroom. On tonight's show, we have guest Laura Greco. And Laura's going to help us, if you're a parent or if you're not a parent even, create calm in the chaos. So Laura works and helps frazzled parents experience more calm in their lives, hone their skills, build confidence, build energy, focus to create a peaceful, thriving home. And so I'm a little tongue-tied, and that's because my life has been chaotic today. I just ran in here after getting dinner on the table. So hi, Brandon. So welcome, Laura. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so excited to be here with you and to, I've been getting familiar with the work that you're doing, and it's really awesome. Yeah.
Oh, thanks,
Yeah.
Laura. Well, I know there are a lot of people who need to hear what you have to say. And I know one of the viewers in particular who's going to be tuning in tonight needs to hear what you have to say. Hi, Tenacious Warrior. So talk to me about the type of work that you do
Mhm.
and what in your life led you to help parents create calm in the chaos. Hi, Kathleen.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I've recently described myself as a warrior mama, right? Because yeah, parenting is a very big and very meaningful job in the world today. And it really affects the future of our whole existence here on the planet. So I became passionate about this actually as a youngster myself. I didn't know it was going to lead me here, but what I look to do is to really help parents, especially moms, tap into their resilience. All of us have resilience in our, we wouldn't be here today if we didn't have resilience as our superpower. But being able to draw on that when things are really tough, that's when it becomes even more meaningful, when it's harder to really tap into it. So that's what I look to do, help people to build their skills and develop more fully what they already have within them.
So that's awesome. That's so great. And, I know, like, if you're human, you go through tough stuff sometimes, and
Oh yeah.
some things are way harder than others. But when we talked a couple of weeks ago, you shared with me, just some of the things that you've gone through. And I'm just wondering if you'd be willing to share, just to give some context to the
Yeah.
fact that you're a parent and,
Yeah.
you've been through some really, really difficult stuff in your
Yeah.
life.
Yeah, yeah, and I'll just preface this by saying that no matter what happens in our life, like I don't these. I come from a home that was very trauma ridden. I'm the oldest of a divorced family with a total of 6 of us, right? So I got to experience a lot of things growing up. And I would never, ever want to use it as blame or excuses like this. When we talk about these things that happened to us in the past, I view them as information, like information to work from. So the more we can understand where we come from and how that affects how we are approaching life, the more awareness happens, then the more we're able to redirect our life in a way that's supports the person we want to be and to show up as the parent we want to be. And it takes courage. It takes lots of courage and forgiveness. But all of that, watching what I watched growing up, really created the question. I think I mentioned this to you. Created this question in me is, how will I do it different? How can it be done better? Can it be done differently? Does it have to be this way? And as the oldest, I was often taking care of my younger brothers and sisters. So I literally was experimenting while I was in charge. But I studied early childhood education when I got out of high school. And then I became a parent of 4 daughters myself, not to mention 2 stepsons. So yeah, and a nanny and, all the experiences. Yeah.
So Laura, so many people experience trauma in their lives, and it can be in their childhood, it can be in relationships, romantic partners, marriages.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think that there are real effects. I don't think I know there are real effects from the trauma. Speaking from your experience, how were you able to shift your mindset to say the trauma and that experience as information as opposed to having it derail you, which I think would be very easy to happen.
Yeah, and there's work that would need to be done right around that, because, and I went through that too. Like there was work that needs to be done, and one of the things I have been circling around is modalities like Hakomi, or which is a mind body modality. But there's other ways also that we can tap into and get the healing, right, that needs to take place to honor the trauma that took place, but then to see it as, be able to get to that place of seeing it as information allows us to be released from the trauma and not be reactivating that every time something happens. When our children are experiencing things, like supposing it was not a family situation, but it was a bullying situation, and our child comes home. Mm-hmm. The first thing that happens is we are re-traumatized because our child experienced that. So we're reacting from that space of being a child ourselves. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we could become more neutral? And the only way that can really happen is to become healed within ourselves, like to take care of ourselves, so that when we're helping our children, we're able to do it in a way that will help them to get through it better.
Yeah. And, it's funny that you brought that, the idea of bullying up, because I will share a little bit about my childhood. And so I grew up in the 70s and 80s, and there were certainly bullies back then, but bullying, there wasn't a thing. There wasn't a movement against bullying. So when I was in eighth grade, I was beaten very badly by somebody who was once my friend, one of my best friends. And it was bad. Black eyes. Later, a doctor told me years later that my nose had been broken at some point. So now looking back, I think that the nose was broken. And so it was very bad. Mm-hmm. And that was a trauma in my life. So fast forward, 40 years or whatever it is, 30 some years. And now I have a 10-year-old daughter, and she has a little group of friends, and there are things that come up. Mm-hmm. And when I hear her say certain things, or somebody hurt her feelings, or this or that happened, it's like, yeah, it brings the trauma back. Mm-hmm. And it's hard for me not to react or tell her just stop being friends or whatever. And just, it's hard not to let her have the experience that she's going to have because of that trauma that I experienced. So do you have any ideas? And I don't want to make it all about me, but I think that's a relevant example that maybe you could.
Yeah, it totally is. It totally is. And I will tell you that I can relate to that, because when I hit a certain age growing up, there was a certain large trauma that I went through. And when my daughter reached that same age, I became extremely fearful. Like I noticed a lot of anxiety. I ended up having to actually get some help about it, right? Mm-hmm. Because it was a re-traumatization just because of her age. So interesting, right?
Yeah.
So it's the funniest little things. Sometimes it's things you wouldn't expect. But as in this case, of your daughter, like, I don't know. I to me, the big place to start is to just breathe, right? To just come into your, I teach this 4-step process to be able to come into the moment and tap into your intuition and into your knowing and into your heart, which allows you, allows you to actually tap in and not be in the headspace, because the head is where the ego lives. It's where the subconscious is, and all those things are stored. And even though we begin to be aware of it, we're still triggered by it. Mm-hmm. And often we're not fully aware of it. So, taking the process to take a breath first, right? To get the scramble that's going on in our head and get it back down into our heart, and then to take space for observing. That allows us to proceed. And sometimes the proceed is that we need to find someone to speak to about it, right? Who can really help us move through it. A professional sometimes, or sometimes it's a spouse or, a coach or whatever. But the whole point is to not live in that space of stress, but to actually. Oops.
I'm so sorry about that. I didn't turn it off and it's spam. Sorry. Okay.
Our technology.
Chaos.
Yeah, calm in the chaos. And that's the whole thing. Your daughter comes home, and I'm sure it's extremely upsetting for you. And so the first thing you want to do is, and I know the experience, I had 4 of them. So, the first thing is, to go and do something about it. My daughter also experienced bullying in school, and the school would do nothing. And I experienced bullying too, in school as well. So I understand what you're saying to me. And finally, I had to talk her through how to, to stand up for herself. And, I'll never forget the excited look on her face when she came home one day and she just kept saying, I did it. I did it. I said, what did you do? She said, I stood up to him and told him to leave me alone. And awesome. she stopped and she looked him square in the face and said, stop.
Yeah.
Now that doesn't always work, for example, in your case,
Right. Yeah. But just having the courage, to do it and have some, nobody foresaw that could have happened to me. It just happened. Yeah. But now I foresee things like that could happen to my daughter. So we're trying to prepare her for
how to. Yes,
exactly.
And that's taking that warrior action, right? That courage action, right? Okay. Because now you're not causing fear for her, but you're helping her to be prepared for these kinds of activities that might take place.
Okay. Yeah, that's super helpful.
And that as you feel, I always approach it from the parent's aspect first. Like as a parent feels secure in their own beingness, as they begin to work through that, it helps them to be able to do the same for their children, because they teach the process that they already have done for themselves.
Yes, exactly. That's right. That's right. They're kind of modeling what you're showing them.
Yes.
So Joni, a longtime viewer, says the hardest is wishing your kids weren't afraid of their father and father not understanding why they're afraid. The denial is trauma for all, over and over. So I know this is like 2 blips from Joni. If there is anything that you might have to say to Joni, what would that be?
Well, first of all, yeah, I understand that too. Grew up with that and experienced it. And what I will say, it takes, I'm trying to think how to put this, it takes real courage to stand up, but that's actually part of the process, right? When the trauma, I don't know the experience of the, like with the father, but there is fear there, right? So, again, tapping into her intuition and just getting in touch with what's really going on here and what's going on for the child. And then seeking help if that's what's necessary. Like, don't live in that. Both my biological mother as well as the mother that raised me were pretty powerful women, and yet they didn't know how to handle the trauma side of things. And they did, because they didn't reach out. They went through their own stuff, and they just kept trying to think it was okay. It's okay. Sometimes it's time to make it open, because that also helps the other parent, right? Because there could be a healing.
Mm-hmm.
And, that other parent apparently has been through things too, which is what's causing perhaps that situation.
Correct. Right. That's true. That's true. Absolutely right. Thank you for that. Thank you. So as part of, so
I hope
you,
that helps.
thank
Yeah,
you. Yeah, Joni always tunes in, and I know she's very open to learning and growth and stuff, and she takes it all in.
yeah.
So, and she says, "Wow, thank you." Um, so you talked about there's a series of steps that you teach parents to go through,
Hmm.
mamas.
Hmm.
And obviously I want people to connect with you after this is over, but can you share a little bit more about your process? That might be helpful because like I said, I know that there is another parent on here who's going through tough times at the moment,
Yeah.
with her teenage daughter.
Hmm.
And it's chaotic, it's stressful. She loves her daughter, but when the kids get to be a certain age, it becomes more difficult to rein them in.
Yeah.
Um, you know, can you share, what process you might take somebody like this through?
Yeah. Well, from the mom side of the house, let's just
Mhm.
start there, right? Because that's always where we need to start, right? So the process that I have, it's actually the acronym is the word stop. And the first word of that process, so S, is stop. And so when we're in a situation where we're in a chaotic situation, right? The way to break the energy of crazy is to just stop. Like,
Mhm.
don't engage, just stop. And then do a little breathing. Like, the more impactful you can be in breathing, the better for you, in order to get you out of the crazy in your head and into your heart, which is the intuitive aspect. And your heart always knows what to do.
Mhm.
And so as you're breathing, you could even touch your heart, right? And as you touch your heart, yeah, stop. So you take a breath. So you stop, you take a breath. And once that breath has gotten you into a calmer place, now you can observe what's going on. And you can ask a question of your heart, what's the next best step? Right? And that's how you then proceed forward. Right? And so I encourage actually moms to practice, or anybody, parents, to practice this even when there's not a traumatic situation. And the reason that I encourage this is because when you do this, if you were to revisualize say it's a reoccurring situation, maybe like your friend, right? She could get into the mindset of that happening, and she could actually tap into her body and see where she's feeling it in her body. And for some of us, we feel in our heart. Some of us, it's in our stomach, right? And some of us, it's our head, right? And so when we understand where we're feeling it in our bodies, we understand the signal to go forward. The signal to create the stop, the breath, take the breath, and then observe and go forward. And that might mean touching that part of the body where we feel it, just to bring us back in, or the head, because sometimes it's the chatter of the head that's exploding.
Yeah.
This teaches our children also how to regulate themselves, because when we approach the situation, say if it's an ongoing situation with a teenager, that gives us a chance to enter into it in a neutral state. So whenever we're approaching a situation with a teenager, say, who's lashing out, or a young teen, like a younger teenager, the thing might be that you need to speak without a lot of words, but just say, this is disrespectful. I asked you to do this, but do it in a neutral state. And that's powerful,
Mm.
because they really want to engage with you. They're hurting too, right? You're hurting, they're hurting. And so the best solution is to stay connected
Mhm.
even more deeply. I used to say, when my children were struggling, and it was not all roses while I was raising my children, let me tell you what.
Yeah.
but I noticed that the ones that I was having a harder time with, I got closer with them until they got through the situation.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. So, okay, so the acronym STOP is
Stop,
uh, stop,
take
take
a
a
breath,
breath,
right?
observe.
and then proceed.
And proceed.
Yes.
Got it.
Yes.
That
And
makes,
the more we practice it, like we can do this periodically throughout the day just for ourselves, like to check in. How am I doing in my body? How am I feeling? Am I getting stressful? For example, I was using, if I can, I was using this example because I recalled it to me. And back in the day when I was parenting, I didn't know these little tricks so much, but I was developing them. And one,
sorry, that's my husband honking his horn. He's home.
He's home. Yay. Okay.
Okay.
He wants to be on the show too.
I guess so. Sorry.
So anyway, this situation was, if you can, and I'm sure you can imagine this, dinner's getting ready. You got the pot boiling, the dog's barking, the kids are home and they need their homework done, right? So every crazy is happening, right?
Yeah.
And what we don't realize is that our stress level is also elevating, right? We want to get this, you got to get the homework done. You got to get this done. And everything's happening. Well, what happened for me was I wasn't noticing my own body, but my youngest child, she was not even in school yet. I could see, I looked down at her and I saw the stress on her and she was like getting ready to, to scream or something. And I remember, maybe it seems counterintuitive, but I grabbed her up and I went and sat in a rocking chair. Like I just forgot about everything and just went and sat in the rocking chair for a couple of minutes and I rocked her out. And as I rocked her out, I also felt myself calming down. Mm-hmm. And that to me was quite a lesson because once I calmed down, even though I didn't notice I was stressing, the whole household got much quieter. Things sort of got smoothed out. Mm-hmm. I was able to conduct myself with more neutrality, which allowed everybody else to flow properly.
Yeah. Yeah. When Mama's not happy, nobody's happy. That's that was the way it was when I grew up. And it certainly is the way it is in my house now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, I describe moms as the hub of the home, right? Mm-hmm. Right. She's the one that's holding it together. And and it makes sense too. There's a lot more emotional ties, in a mom's world, so of course that level of emotion is going to carry through the whole house because it's energetic. Einstein, for example, right? He says you cannot correct a problem with the same energy that created it. I'm not quoting it exactly, but
yes.
Yeah, that kind of thing. So
I've heard that multiple times over my life, and I always forget it.
Yeah. So when everybody's screaming, the the most counterintuitive thing, because we think we want to shout over it, right? But if we got quiet, we help ourselves, and then we help our children. Yeah. In a new way.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Can see that. And I can see that's why maybe some people talk in the whisper voice, when they're ready to lose their mind.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember somebody commenting about that. And no joke, just as a funny little story, I can remember my girls all, these bickering things that happen with girls. And I can remember looking at them and saying, I can't believe you all four came out of here,
Yeah.
And they looked at me like,
exactly.
So sometimes, we break the energy by creating a little humor sometimes and,
Exactly. So I love that STOP. I love the STOP acronym. So another question. So I tend to think from talking to friends of mine, who have kids that are in their teens and just kind of farther along. And I can see from my own relationship with my daughter how, like any relationship, it's going to go through ebbs and flows, times where you are really connected and times when you're really butting heads.
Mm-hmm.
And what do we do when we're butting heads? I'm not there yet, but I foresee it,
Yeah. Yeah. And again, that STOP is actually like a tool you can use all the time. Mm-hmm. Because even as they're approaching the teenage years, I believe in the ability for parents to really know their children, especially if they're really open to to solution, right? And so again, taking that breath, tapping into the intuitive and asking the question, and then allowing the answer to come, even if you do it with the child, but again, a teenager, those teenage years can be, if you have younger children, I'll just say, go ahead and create the great relationship with them and the communication, the eye contact and all of that, because as they get into teenage years, they're looking to break loose and to become more independent. And they are going to go through that ebb and flow, right? Because that's all part of the process, and they will attach themselves to you sometimes so much, and then they're, leave me alone, I want to do my thing. And so, yeah, it's confusing for parents. But again, that tapping in and staying neutral, not allowing the energy that they're creating, create energy in you.
Got it. Yeah, that makes total sense. And I think a big part of it is the reaction, at least, I'm just speaking from my own experience that I have, may have to whatever happened, the paper that didn't get turned in, or the smart mouth, So I think the stop really is a valuable thing to implement. So talk to me about energy, because I know that a lot of parents are wiped out, they're tapped out, just from the busyness of parenthood, of working, of juggling many roles. Especially a lot of my viewers are single parents, and they're doing it on their own, and they're trying to make adjustments, and the kid is sick, but I have to work, and it's exhausting.
It is.
And there are times, I've had my own clients who tell me, I want to give up. So how, when somebody has reached that point of breaking point, what can they do to manage the energy better? Do you have any thoughts on that, Laura?
Okay. Yeah. And I've been there.
Yeah.
I've been there too, of course. I was running a business from my home, raising my kids, going through some stressful things while they were growing up, and on my own a lot sometimes, just challenges. And honestly, it still goes down to the same thing. So like, I'm going to go back to some examples that are realistic so that you can understand, like, it may seem like it's just another thing that you hear all the time, but that self-nurturing is very vital. And that does not mean extravagance, but it does mean taking care of yourself. So what creates high vibration? Well, eating well, drinking plenty of water, these things are very important in keeping our energy on top of, right? Making sure we get outside and get into the air, even if it means we take our children with us. But honestly, I would get up earlier than my children to go outside and to maybe do I like to do photographing. So I would take pictures of the sunrise or the drops in the trees, when the sun was coming through them, and, things that are creative. And the other thing I would always do is, find space for a break. Athletes who are in a process of, I read this one time and I experimented myself, like when they're in the process of intensity, they find ways to take little breaks, and they found out that that's what creates the stamina they need. So for example, they observed tennis players, and when they were in their game, the ones that didn't lose their cool were the ones that actually looked away from the game and like disengaged and then came back. So the ability to disengage and then come back gives you the space, like music has notes, but it's the space that creates the interesting part of music, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So same with us. So it feels like maybe you don't have time. So when you're just sitting at a traffic light, can you take some breaths? Can you disengage for a moment? When you're going for your drink of water, can you remember to take that space to disengage for a moment? All these little bits will help us to create more energy within us and have fun a little bit.
Yeah. So important.
Right. Even if it's short. A joke, laughing, like whatever, something to lighten the mood. It's all important.
I couldn't agree more. So a couple points on that. So let me see. I'm going to grab a book that I'm reading real quick.
Sure.
So when you talked about taking space, so my husband bought me this book. It's like I'm the biggest type A personality.
Effortless. Okay.
Effortless. Such a great book. Make
Oh,
it easier
wow.
to do what matters most. So
Yeah.
part of what he talks about in this book, and is a coach of some baseball team, like a major league baseball team,
Yeah.
and or multiple teams, and what he would do for his teams, like prior to the playoffs, he'd tell them, just show up for the games. We're not going to practice. Get your rest. Just show up for the games,
Mm-hmm.
and for like a week. And that's what they did. And these teams outperformed the other teams. Like they had a better winning record than many of the other teams. Many of the teams that he coached went on to win championships because of the break
Yes. Yes.
that he
Yes.
gave them.
I love that.
Yeah. So that kind of is in alignment with what you were just saying.
Yeah. Yeah. The book that I read years ago, I don't see it right here right now, but it's, I think it's The Power of Fully Engaging or Fully Disengaging. Or yeah, I'll have to get you the title of that book. But that was the one that taught me. It was written by athletic coaches turned life coaches. And
Wow.
so back in 2000, I don't know, 3, 4, somewhere in there, when I was doing my own business and having all this going on, oh my gosh, it just engaged me so much because it really was probably the first time I read anything that had to educate me on that energy level. It was actually written for workaholics, that kind
Oh,
of thing. Yeah. So
yeah. I'd love it if you'd share the name of the book.
yeah,
We
I
can,
just
we
want to
can
see if it was here. No, I think it's in the other room. I'll give it to you though.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And the other part of it is, so I'm quite a serious person, you know,
Yeah.
and, but there's this really goofy side of me. But growing up, my mom and my brother would just laugh and laugh at sitcoms on TV. Like they just sit there and just laugh. And it took a lot to get me to laugh. But, recently I'm just allowing that more. And so Friends is popular again. The show Friends, which I
Okay.
watched in the '90s. So every night now, this is our ritual. Our family is we watch an episode of Friends. Some
Oh,
of it's
fun.
some of it's inappropriate for a 10-year-old, but whatever.
Yeah.
But I just laugh, and it's like a great decompress
Yeah.
at the end of a day and prior to going to bed. And I always go to bed and feeling happy, because we had this family bonding time. So I agree 1,000% on the lightening things up and having a laugh or playing or having fun.
Yeah. You just reminded me of another recommendation that I know I took for myself. Oh, the powerful. Oh, you got it.
Is that it?
That's it. There you go.
Okay,
I guess you
awesome.
read that too.
Thank you, Tenacious Warrior. She's really good at finding things if she didn't
Yeah.
read this. Yeah.
Yeah. The current news, especially, has become very. It's very draining to people.
Mhm.
And yes, it's good to be informed.
Mhm.
However, I worked with a mom through COVID when it first started. And one of the things that we did steer away from with her was to stay away from that news on a consistent basis, right? Because that too is very fear inducive, right?
Totally.
Right.
Totally.
And I believe that the more we stay in that, the more we create it, right? When we focus, right? What we focus on grows. So if we focus on that, it's going to grow.
Yep.
I mean, earth-wide. So how about we do less focusing on that, more focusing on fun and love and kindness and what we can do for each other, and those kinds of things make a big difference.
I agree. Yep. I agree 100%. What we focus on grows. And yeah, I'm trying hard to shift that mindset.
Yeah. And it feels hard, especially if you're a single parent or you are going through a challenging situation. And yet It is the path to greater energy and the ability to approach it with freshness, the situations.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I have another question, and it's from Jason and Amanda Smith. So Jason and Amanda posted a couple of things, so I'm going to read through them.
Okay.
And I know what you're going to say, but maybe I don't. So
Okay.
Jason and Amanda say, what to do with tantrums? My 5-year-old son likes to aggravate his 7-year-old brother. When I punish him, he'll tell me he hates me and then go for. And then it says, most of the time I have to chase him down. It gets overwhelming. When my husband is home, he's better behaved. And then Jason and Amanda say, my 7-year-old is autistic.
Okay. Yeah. And autism has its own challenges, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, again, the first step, of course, is the mom, to be, I guess, when the husband's home, the child behaves more. Was there more than one child involved? I wasn't sure.
Yeah. So the 5-year-old, hold on a second. Let me see. The
5 and
5-year-old
7-year-old?
aggravates the 7-year-old who's autistic.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. So we're getting attention, are we?
Yeah.
The 5-year-old wants attention.
There you go.
Yeah. So again, it does require, first of all, for the parent to be able to maintain her own neutrality and her own, and it depends on what situation is going on. So tantrums, we don't necessarily shy away. We allow our child to go through their tantrum, right? But we don't engage. Like, that's not, when you're finished, we'll move forward, let it happen. Don't be embarrassed by it. I know it's the hardest thing in the world.
So hard.
Because I've been through it. But, that's we have a tendency in our culture to teach ourselves and teach our children, right, to hide what they're really feeling. So, okay, go through it, move through it. When you're done, we'll move forward, that kind of thing. And then there's going to have to be some suggestions of different behavior towards the child that's 7, right? Yeah. And maybe the engagement of what we can do for another, or how we can redirect that energy that's looking to be paid attention to an activity that supports the other child, so that the 5-year-old feels like he can be involved. I actually have a book suggestion for this kind of. Hold on, I'm going to grab it.
Oh, yes, please. So in the meantime, William S. is saying, I'm not perfect at it, and sometimes I feel like I'm losing it. You're not alone, that's for sure, William.
No.
But what helps me is yoga, meditation, plant-based, clean eating, 30 minutes of aerobic exercise, moderate resistance training. And William says, I'm a single parent with a challenging 7-year-old daughter, so it seems like you're on the right track. What do you think, Laura, with everything William's doing?
Yeah, he's doing excellent. Doing excellent.
Yeah.
He concisely put, right? He actually gave his precise ways of dealing with it, with the 30 minutes and it's excellent. And, at the end of the day, all we can do is our best, right? So we keep, right. And what your best today may be different tomorrow, so it's a matter of information. When we see things happening, okay, so it's information. We can get upset about it, but are we accomplishing anything at it? Maybe we can sit with it and say, what can we do different? This book, let's see, where's the camera?
Creative Interventions for Challenging Children and Adolescents.
Yeah.
Creative. That's great. Thank you so much.
It's awesome. It's, I know Susan Epstein is the author. Oops, I actually have a little page in here also.
Cool.
That she had me publish a page in here, along with a lot of us parenting coaches all got together. She organized this, and we were all contributors to the book. But also, she is a therapist, has been a therapist for children, so she has really awesome information in here And also for difficult or, autism, learning challenges, suggestions in here. It's a really good book.
That's great. Okay, so Tenacious Warrior is an educator, and she says she used that when she was teaching 6th grade. So that's
yes, it is. I think it is encouraged for school. She just did a rewrite, so I don't know if she has the updated version or an older version. This is a redo.
Oh, okay, cool. I'm gonna have to get that one.
Yeah, you'll want this. This is good.
Yeah.
I gave it to my daughter too.
Oh, awesome. That's great. That's
Yeah.
really great. Such good suggestions. That's awesome.
Yeah, republished in 2019. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's really good. Yeah.
Excellent. That is so good. Yeah, it's I think it's a hard thing because when you're in the moment, and then Joni said, because when you're in the moment, when I'm in the moment, I can only speak for myself. I really just want to
blow.
I guess you put it nicer than I was going to. And Joey says it's in that moment you have to break the energy and be thankful. And isn't that the truth?
Yeah. Yeah.
So true.
Yeah. And if you can get to that place, so to stop, take that breath, if you can get into gratitude, that's awesome. Sometimes it's hard to get quite there, but at least get into that heart space, right?
Yeah, totally.
And be thankful you can. Maybe that's the answer, right? Be thankful you can.
Exactly. Well, I was just thinking about the taking a breath, and sometimes when I do that, my daughter's like, "Why are you breathing so loud?" And it's just funny, but that's, the best thing in that moment.
Yeah.
And so Jason and Amanda says that she has 5 kids total, and the baby drives her nuts.
Yeah.
Oh, bless you, Amanda.
Yes.
You're doing a good job. The fact that you're here and asking questions and want to do better, that's good.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
The youngest, but sometimes you can use the numbers to help you.
Oh.
Because my youngest one decided she wasn't going to have an app anymore. And I required, in their summer times, to have space for myself, that we would all rest for about an hour in the afternoon. I needed it, and they needed it in order to go through the rest of the day without, getting at each other. And my little girl, she was not even a year old, she decided she wasn't going to do it. And I can remember lifting her up to look in her eyes, and she would put her eyes up in her head. So I tipped her until I got her eye contact. And I just said, Christina's doing it, Dawn's doing it, Evelyn's doing it, Mommy's doing it, and so is Lydia. And she laid down and went to sleep. So you could try it anyway.
That's awesome.
Well, I didn't see what else was said.
Let's see. Tenacious Warrior says, find positive things to say to your child, even when they're in trouble, and start it off with something positive instead of directly into the hard issue.
Absolutely.
Great suggestions. Awesome. So, Laura, I know that you can help people more, and you have a free gift to share with people. So can you talk to us about the gift? And we'll post, Tenacious Warrior is going to help me post the link here.
Okay. Yes. So the gift is actually the process. It's the notes from the STOP, STOP, and it has more information. And you'll receive also a few more emails that will give you some more suggestions about how to use that tool. But it's a great thing to just print up and, have it around so that it helps you. Yeah. Awesome. So that's the gift. There's a link for that.
Perfect. Yeah. All right. And so tell me how else you can help people. I think that you might have a program or some programs.
So, yeah. So as I said, I'm a warrior mom, right? And I'm also helping to spark the resilient mama movement. So when we think of resilience, right, the definition of resilience is the ability to quickly navigate and recover from challenges. And everyone has resilience. That's a superpower. It's whether or not we are able to tap into it when we're really feeling stressed. And that's what this resilient mama movement is all about. It's about going into that and really understanding how we can do that. So I have a 5-week program that rolls out from start to finish what we would be looking at to create that resilience in a fuller way. So it's not to say you don't have it, it's to help to support those skills that are within you. Oh, somebody did that. Yep, quickly navigate. Thank you. You got it out of the dictionary. That's exactly what it says. Yeah. So that's what I'm offering.
Awesome.
As another program. And I'm really excited about the movement because I believe it's an opportunity for parents to come together and to really create a shift in the way we parent our young children and to create a change on this earth, because we are going through a shift. And so wouldn't it be awesome if parents could come together, not in judgment, but in love and kindness, right? Being open to the differences that we have as well as the similarities, and find the solutions that will help us all.
I agree so much. Like, I agree there's a shift happening, and what a great vehicle that you have created for people to come together and steer this shift in the direction that is going to be positive for humankind and for the world.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm excited. I'm excited for all the parents that are raising these beautiful future people,
That's right. That's
they
right.
are the ones that will, to be the next ones on this planet. We are more alike than we are different. That is so true.
And I see that your community is helpful for people who maybe are single parents and feel alone.
Yes.
They can come and meet with a like-minded group of parents or be a part of a community with them. So I think that's awesome, Laura. What's your website, and how can people contact you?
Okay, so on the website, it's very easy because you can just go to, contact me and type your information in there, and I will contact you back, or you can make an appointment to talk with me. I offer free consultation to just get to know each other, not for any other reason, but to see, explore. Anyway, my website is www.fulllifewellness.com. Full life wellness. So, it's like the container of all wellness.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. So we will post all the links. There we go.
Yeah. There she has it. Yeah, yep. She's got it. Yep. Beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll post all the links in the notes for this show, but I want to thank you for your time. It's late there. I think you're in New Jersey, Laura. So it's 10:30 there.
Yeah.
Probably time for bed for you. So
thank you. Yes, it is. But I'm really very honored. Thank you so much for having me. And I hope that the support, it's been supportive to the parents who listen in on this show.
I'm sure it has. And I'm very grateful for you. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Wendy. Thank you.
And so for all of you out there listening, I know that you got some great tools. That stop thing. Stop. Yeah. Let's use it. Let's stop and listen. And Brandon says, thanks for all the great info. See you on the next one. We'll see you next time, Brandon. It's good to see you. Good to see Joni and Tenacious Warrior and Raul and Jason and Amanda. And there's people on here that I don't know who you were because there was other people watching who didn't chime in. So thank you guys. Remember to keep on trucking and get out there and command the courtroom and like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. And I'll see you next week. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thanks.